Okay, so we are going to start the concept and reality book discussion, so which was compiled by Most Venerable Katukurunde ஞானானந்த Thero, and someone is ready to read the book from where we have stopped. So I invite someone to start from where we have stopped. Maybe a little bit earlier from where we stopped.
Yeah, we stopped at page 80, so scroll up of the world, by which one has conceit of the world, that is called world in the noble one's discipline. And through what is one conscious of the world? Through what has one conceit of the world? Through the eye, friends, through the ear, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind. The end of the world, wherein one is not born, does not grow old or die, pass away, or reappear, that I declare is impossible to be known, seen, or reached by traveling. But, friend, I do not declare that one can make an end of suffering without reaching the end of the world. Friend, I do proclaim that in this very fathom-long body, with its perceptions and consciousness, is the world's arising, the world's cessation, and the path leading to the world's cessation. The world, O Lord, they call it. In what sense, a Lord, is there a world or a concept of a world? Wherever Samidhi, there is the eye, the visible forms, the visual consciousness, and the things perceptible with the visual consciousness, there is the world or concept of it. Wherever there is the ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. Wherever Samidhi, there is no eye, no visible forms, no visual consciousness, and nothing perceptible with the visual consciousness, there is neither a world nor a concept of a world. Wherever there is no ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. Thus, the world is what our senses present it us to be. However, the world is not purely a projection of the mind in the sense of a thoroughgoing idealism, only it is a phenomenon which the empirical consciousness cannot get behind, as it itself committed to it. One might, of course, transcend the empirical consciousness and see the world objectively in the light of Panya, only to find that it is void, sunya, of the very characteristics which made it a world for oneself.
Okay, one moment, Saman. So basically, few important points here Katukurunde Thero highlights. So we basically prepare a world. So there are certain words here we can recognize, single out, like empirical consciousness, and where we typically have our own world. So maybe, say, I have a father, I have a mother, my brother, sister, maybe wife, husband, children, and myself. So all that belong to our world, and using those, actually we prepare our world, and so I am in that world. So we all have our individual worlds in that sense. But as he pointed out here, so this empirical consciousness is then transcended by the development of the Panya. So one develop the Panya, the wisdom. So there slowly one may understand. So this so-called conceptual world is something, and what is really available is something different. And even though the conceptual world has me, myself, and my children, my husband, my wife, my parents, etc., but in the ultimate sense, so we can say all are rising and passing away, or it's a kind of a flux, or we can say it's a mere aggregates. So likewise, some form of understanding may arise in one's mind. So there are, as Katukurunde Thero points out, So it is now completely void or sunya of what we already thought of. So we thought that I is there, myself is there, my children are there, parents are there, husband, wife are there. So likewise, we thought like that. But now one would understand, okay, so this whole world is completely empty of such a person, completely empty of such a being, such a self, and even what belongs to a self. So the typical uh, definition given for sunyata is like sunyamidang attenava attaniyenava. So that means this world is empty of a self and what belongs to a self. So as Katakrunda Thero here points out, so we previously had a conceptual world which is with so many people, so many individuals, including myself. And now later through Vipassana one may understand, okay, this whole world is empty of such a person, such a personality, and such a self or what belongs to a self. So the kind of a contradiction and what we were thinking, and now we are an arahant, how he is thinking, how he is understanding, and how Katukunda Thero points out these two kind of a sides, or the view that the properly one has when the panya is operating in one's mind. Okay, Saman, we will proceed.
Yeah, Bhante. To those who are complacently perched on their cozy conceptual superstructures regarding the world, there is no more staggering a revelation than to be told that the world is a void. They might recoil from the thought of being plunged into abysmal depth of a void, where concepts are no more. But one need not panic, for the descent to those depths is gradual and collateral with rewarding personal experience. Hence, the three significant terms in Buddhist ethics, Anupubba Sikha, Anupubba Kiriya, Anupubba Patipada, gradual training, gradual doing, gradual practice. One can, therefore, without inhibition, make use of the conceptual tools at his command in his spiritual endeavors, only he must sharpen them and continue to sharpen them until they wear themselves out in the process of use. He has to be guided by the twin principles of relativity and pragmatism. The spiritual training in Buddhism is broad-based on the most elementary fact of experience, dukkha. It proceeds to and culminates in experience. Experience is itself the ultimate criterion of truth and not its predictability. Yet, from the worldling's point of view, predictability is of the very essence of truth.
Not the predictability, it's the predictability.
Predicability.
Yeah.
Predicability is of the very essence of truth.
Yeah, so one moment. Now here, sometimes we are always trying to express what we understand, express what is our experience. So this is how we typically go through in our own experience. So whatever we went through, whatever we experienced, we want to tell to someone else. Now, say for example, this is how Buddha explains the sanya vepakka. That means the kind of culmination of the sanya, culmination of the perception. So there Buddha mentioned, vohara vepakkaham bhikkave sanyang vadam. Yata yata voharati evang sanyi ahosinti. So that means basically, so when one perceive some different forms, so ultimately one has to express it to someone else. One has to communicate it to another person. So now the various vocabulary coming to the picture, various symbols come to the picture, characters come to the picture, letters come to the picture, words come to the picture, languages come to the picture. So likewise, now we are in a different level because I want to express my view, express my experience, express my, say, what I have seen, heard, etc. So that is where the expressibility comes and how the naming, labeling, all that comes to the picture. But it is not essential, as Katakrunda Thero points out here. So expressing one's experience, if we say it is a must, so that is also something we go wrong. So experience is itself the ultimate criterion of truth and not its predicability. Now, expressibility, predicability is not the ultimate, but experiencing it is the ultimate. So experience is actually here given the priority, not whether we are talking about it, expressing about it. And that is where we sometimes go wrong. And probably you might have certain experience. Now, say you are trying to meditate and you are practicing anapanasati or maybe walking, whatever, and you may have certain situations. What you have experienced is very difficult to explain. What you have experienced, what you have went through, it's very difficult to put into words. And our language is very limited. And on the other hand, when we are trying to explain it, there also we can't thoroughly, completely, properly, accurately express it. It's a kind of a estimation, summarization, or kind of proximate way that we are trying to explain. It is not exactly what we have experienced. So therefore, we need to understand the limitations of our expressibility. We need to understand the limitations of our language. So therefore, if we are trying to explain all our experience through words, through our language, that's also not going to work. But what is important is the experience. One may experience, and while experiencing, we don't need to think about even how we are going to explain it. And often yogis are complaining. So they are walking, they are meditating, they are sitting, but sometimes their mind being disturbed because they are planning about how they are going to express it, how they are going to produce a Kamatahan report. Because that is actually disturbing to the mind, because it's talking. Now the inner chatter starts thinking, how am I going to explain this during my interview, when I'm presenting my interview report. So all that actually comes as an additional burden to the yogi, and it's ultimately is a kind of a disturbance to what we are experiencing. So the experience is the most important thing. So while we are experiencing, we don't need to put it into words. So it's a mere experience. Let's just experience it while keeping the mind utterly pure, utterly calm, relaxed, without any formations, so that no point of trying to explain it. Maybe after later time, you can look back and try to summarize, try to reflect what you have experienced, but that is also a kind of a approximation. We can't say it is the completely 100% correct experience that I am now trying to explain. Rather, it's a kind of using some approximate terms one is trying to explain. But unfortunately, so expressing things, labeling things, putting everything into words, everything in using various vocabulary is something that people find very, very important, and they consider it as ultimately extremely important, and ultimately they get confused in it. They get stuck in it. So these languages have become really a burden to the humankind. So they even divide themselves because of languages. They even kill each other because of languages. And they even have the kind of a wrong view that there is a person who is expressing. There is a person who is using a language, who is trying to communicate, who is trying to preach, who is trying to talk, etc. So this expressibility, the usage of language, even has caused one to prepare a personality view. It also produces some sort of a self-view. So that is the kind of, in a way, entanglement that we go through. We want to express, but ultimately that expressibility, the language, the words, sentences, grammar, all that what we are using as an aid, ultimately even boosting the ego, ultimately even boosting a self. So we look into how Buddha talks about that part in the next part, next category or next section.
Akeya sanjino satta.
No, no, no. Akheya sanjino satta. Akheyasmin patittita. Akheye aparinyaya yogamayanti machunu. Akheyancha parinyaya akhatarang na manyati. Tanghi tassa na hotiti. Yena nang vajju tang tassu natti. Tang tassa natti. Yeah, we'll go to the English translation.
Men, aware alone of what is told by names, take up their stands on what is expressed. If this they have not rightly understood, they go their ways under the yoke of death. He who has understood that is expressed, he fancies not as to one who speaks. Unto him such things do not occur, and that by which others may know him, that for him exist not. Thus, the wordlings is at the mercy of concepts, but still the Buddha shows how he can make the best out of a bad situation. He can make use of the concepts themselves to develop insight into the emptiness of concepts. What is necessary is a middle path between the extreme weaves of existence and non-existence. According to the Buddha, the wordling, for the most part, rests on the verbal dichotomy of existence and non-existence. In the light of wisdom, both these extremes are proved false.
Yeah, one second. Now here, can you get the Pali verse back, Saman? So here, akkeyancha parinyaya, akhatarang na manyati. So this is a very interesting way that Buddha points out, akkeyancha parinyaya. So one thoroughly understands what is really going on. One thoroughly understands these terminologies, languages, etc. And akhatarang na manyati. But he do not consider that there is a person who is expressing. Kind of a expresser, kind of a term, kind of a man, a woman that who is expressing. He does not consider like that. Now he's talking about, the Buddha is talking here about the Arahant. Even the Buddha, Buddha is preaching Dhamma, talking and all that is there without considering he as a person. So that's very interesting. Now say Venerable Moggallana is delivering a discourse, but he do not consider himself as a person. Venerable Sariputta delivering a discourse, but he do not consider him as a person. But for us, what happens is when we are expressing, when we are talking, when we are addressing someone, addressing a gathering, so we feel that I am there, I am the one talking now, I am the one preaching now, I am the one addressing the audience. So you feel panic, you feel even stressed, you feel even nervous, because you feel that there is a person who is talking now. There is a person who is addressing the, say, audience now. So this is I am. So if I make a mistake, okay, everyone else will be sort of feel upset. They might think, okay, I am not knowing about the subject, or I make a mistake and they may cut the marks. So all that is there because while we are talking, while we are expressing, while we are addressing, we consider there is a person. But here for the Buddha, that is not there. Because he understood this is mere language, this mere way of expressing, this mere way of communication, but there is no person who is behind it. There is no person who is addressing. So he therefore fancies not as to one who speaks. There is no person who is speaking, even though kind of a speaking is going on. So this is a very interesting area that how Buddha is talking here to a particular yakka in the Samidhi Sutta. So this is also something that we can think of. So how sometimes we even prepare ourselves while we are talking. Say you are talking to someone and while you are talking to that person, are you making an additional effort to highlight to yourself? Are you making an additional effort to kind of impress the other person? So are you feeling little nervous when you are talking? Are you feeling embarrassed when you are talking? So all that actually shows that still some sort of a self-view is existing. Something is still going wrong. Still, you can't simply carry on the discussion without arising of a person, without any kind of an identification. So this is also a very interesting area for us as Vipassana yogis to look at, because am I making a self during a conversation? Am I making a self during a speech? When you are delivering a speech, or when you are preaching, or when you are talking to someone. So this is a very interesting area. And now we can go to the other part, Saman.
Yavante. Dvayanishito kwayang kachana loko yebuyena
Atitancheva natitancha.
Atitancheva natitancha. Loka samudayanko kachana yathabhutang sammapanyaya passato ya loke nattita sana hoti. Loka nirodhanko kachana yathabhutang sammapanyaya passato ya loke attita sana hoti. Upayupadanaabhinivesa vinibandho kwayang kachana loko tanchaya loko yebuyen. Tanchayam upayupadanam chetaso chetaso aditthana. Abhinivesa
anusayam.
Na upeti, na upadeti, na nadithati, atta meti. Dukkhameva uppajjamanam uppajjati, dukkham nirujjamanam nirujjatiti. Na kamkhati, na vichikicchati, Aparapachaya na jnanamevas etta hoti. Ettavatako kachayana samma ditti hoti. Sabbam attitiko kachayana ayam eko anto sabbam Nattiti ayam dutiyo anto. Eteta ubho ante anupagamma majjena tathagato dhamman deseti avijja pacchaya sankhara.
Right.
This world, Kachayana, usually bases its views on two things, not on existence and non-existence. Now he who, with right insight, sees the arising of the world as it really is, does not hold with the non-existence of the world. And he who, with right insight, sees the passing away of the world as it really is, does not hold with the existence of the world. The world, for the most part, is given to approaching, grasping, entering into and getting entangled as regards weaves. Whoever does not approach, grasp, and take his stand upon that proclivity towards clinging, approaching, and grasping, that mental standpoint, namely the thought, this is my soul, he knows that what arises is just ill, and what ceases is just ill. Thus he is not in doubt, is not perplexed, and herein he has knowledge that is not merely others. Thus far, Kachayana, he has right view. Everything exists. This is one extreme. Nothing exists. This is the other extreme. Not approaching either of these extremes, the Tathagata teaches the doctrine by the middle way. conditioned by ignorance, preparations come to pass.
Yeah, one moment. Can you go back to the Pali part, Saman? Now, this is Kacchanagotta Sutta, very, very important sutta talking about the Samadhi. Actually, Samadhi, as you know, of two forms. The first one is the mundane kind of Samadhi, where Buddha discuss about the Kamma, that you accept the Kamma, the teaching of the Kamma, and you try to do only the wholesome Kamma and avoiding the unwholesome Kamma, because you unwholesome activities, because you understand there's a results of the Kamma. That is where the basic principle that you are trying to avoid the unwholesome activities and only to engage with the wholesome activities, because there is a Kamma operating. So you Kammasa Komhi, Kamma Dayadu, so you basically accept that. So that is our very first way of understanding the Samadhi. Kusalancha pajanati, akusalancha pajanati, kusala moolancha pajanati, akusala moolancha pajanati. So one starts understanding the wholesome activities and the wholesomeness and the unwholesomeness and the roots of the wholesomeness and the roots of the unwholesomeness. But that is not the end where Buddha finish it. But he introduces the supramundane type of samadhi, which is actually a spectrum of development of the wisdom. Panya, Panyindriyam, Panya Balang, Dhammavichaya Sambojjhangang, Samadhitti Magganga. So likewise, he introduced some sort of a samadhi, which is actually a developmental path actually. It is not a fixed definition that he is giving. So the given definition has a broad spectrum of development of the wisdom. So you are developing mindfulness, you are developing concentration, and using that now you are trying to develop vipassana. So from there onwards, actually you are developing this supramundane type of samadhi. So in that supramundane type of samadhi, so this Kacchanagotta Sutta is a very, very interesting example how Buddha is talking its pristine form. The samadhi, as we are progressing, so it's very much like you are not promoting any sort of a grasping and any sort of a personality view, any being as such. Rather, you are ended up with what we call the Patissamuppada. So in this explanation given for samadhi, in this Kacchanagotta is very, very much into the supramundane form. So it is, we can say it's a Buhiyen. So Buddha simply say, Kacchana, this world is basically oriented into two extremes. Atitancheva natitanta. Either thinking it is existing or says it is not existing. It's kind of a dualistic way of thinking. Yes or no. 1, 0. Or good, bad. Existing, not existing. So likewise, our way of thinking, how we handle the conceptual way of thinking is very much into some sort of extremism. Either we say it's good or we say it's bad. It's black or it's white. It's 1 or it's 0. And it is existing or it does not exist. So this is how we are dualistically thinking. And now and on the other hand, certain other area, Upaya Upadana Abhinivesa Vinibandhoko Ayam Kacchana Loko Ebuyana. Another way Buddha further explain, Upaya Upadana Abhinivesa Vinibandha. And these are a few ways how our mind operates. Upaya means that your mind get engaged with an object, engaged with something, engaged with an activity, engaged with some sort of an attached object. That is Upaya. Upadana, so you are grasping. Abhinivesa, you are tangled in it, you are completely adhered to it. Abhinivesa Vinibandha, so you're being somewhat tied to it. And Chetsu Aditthana. Chetsu Aditthana is where you stand on something. You take a stand of a particular view, of a particular side, you take a stand. So that is the Chetsu Aditthana. And then the Anusaya. That is where, as a result of this kind of a behavior, your mind get sort of colored or conditioned by some sort of a wrong behavior, some sort of even view. So different Anusaya Buddha explains, and so different forms of conditioning has happened to the mind because of wrong way of handling it. Now the object is not there, but the wrong association with it has caused it to condition the mind, colored the mind. All that is how the mind has went through Upaya Upadana Abhinivesa Vinibandho Koyan Kachana Loko Yebuhi. And that is how the whole world is operating. So everyone has all these different kinds of mental standpoints, engagements, graspings, adherences, standpoints, and latent tendencies, all that are there. So this, based on all that, the people are interacting with each other. Tanchayang Upayupa, now when one is practicing Vipassana, so what is the kind of advantage is where, say for example, you are understanding how things are arising and passing away. It may be some material stuff, it may be various feelings, it may be various perceptions, it may be various mental formations, thoughts, etc. So more and more you understand how they are coming and going, arising and passing away, appearing and then disappearing. So there you can't now stand on the extremes. Because when you see the arising side, you can't say it does not exist. Because it is there, it is arising continuously. But on the other hand, you can't say now it exists permanently because you see the passing away. So arising and passing away happens as a very series, but there is no any permanency, but it's a kind of a flux, kind of a wave. So there you can't sit on any side now. You can't say it is existing, but again you can't say it is not existing. You can simply say, okay, due to certain conditions, things are arising, and when those conditions are pass away, they pass away. So basically we are now coming to the Patisamuppada, the principle of Patisamuppada. So therefore, Buddha not taking any of these extremes, Buddha is talking Patisamuppada from the middle. Avijja pacca sankhara, sankhara pacca vijnanam, vijnana pacca namarupam, namarupa pacca salayatanam. So this is how things are accumulated, how the suffering being created, because the preparations are happening based on the ignorance, and as the flow continues, end up with suffering. But on the other hand, if there is no avidya, if there is no ignorance, this whole cycle breaks, and there is no arising of any kind of a suffering. So this is the principle that Buddha is teaching us based on the Patisamuppada. So everything is dependently arisen, and when we are ignorantly attached to something, then again we prepare the suffering. But when ignorance is not there, the whole cycle stops. And when one understands that thoroughly, when one practices thoroughly, so there he may go through a different kind of a transformation. So there he says, Dukkhameva uppajjamanam uppajjati, dukkha nirujjamanam nirujjati. Now his understanding, his right view is something like it is not a person arising and passing away, or a person being born, living and ultimately die. Rather, the dukkha is arising, dukkha is passing away. Whatever is arising is nothing but the dukkha. What is passing away is nothing but the dukkha. Now one can ask, what is dukkha? It is a man or a woman. It's a male or a female. It's an object or objectless. Rather than saying it's a man, woman, person or something like that, we can say whatever the experience that we are going through, if it's something that we experience in a way as a feeling, as a perception, as a thought, any kind of a cognition, all are arising, all are passing away. If something is conditioned, that is suffering. So whatever the experience, if we are going through as kind of a conditioned experience, so it is some sort of a suffering because it is subject to arise and it's subject to pass away. Dukkhamev uppajjamanam uppajjati, dukkhan nirujjamanam nirujjati. So whatever thing which we have experienced, it is now being born. It is now existing. If something is existing, definitely it will pass away. So that's a kind of a rule. So you can't stop it being pass away. If something has come to this world, if something has arisen, it is quite definite it will pass away because it's already arisen. So finding our refuge from something existing is therefore not going to work because we can't depend on that because ultimately it will also pass away. So then one has to find out a solution where based on something unborn, unconditioned, unarisen. Ajatang, abhutang, akatang, asankatang. So this is how Buddha says so, where rather than trying to find out a solution in this existing world or what is arising world, which already has born, now one has to find out some sort of a solution, which is ajatang, not born, abhutang, not being prepared, akatang, not being constructed, asankatang, not being prepared. So these are all terms Buddha giving to the Nibbana. So it is ajata, abhuta, akata, asankata. It is not prepared, not constructed, not being born, something like that. Now, therefore, we can't say a Nibbana as an object. We can't say it has some sort of a conditioned phenomena. We can simply say, okay, we are continuing. The moment that if we say, okay, Nibbana is this, Nibbana is that, Nibbana is here, Nibbana is there, still we are trying to objectify it. We are trying to make it as a condition. So then we something kind of going wrong. So anyway, these are something I like to share with you using this Kaccayanagotta Sutta. And so here, interestingly, Buddha mentioned to Venerable Kaccayana, so when one has no doubt about that what is arising is suffering, what is passing away is suffering, there is no person arising and passing away. So now this understanding, this is a supramundane type of right view, and this person has no doubt about it. And he doesn't want to even ask it from someone else because he is so sure about it. So this is in the correct view. Okay, with that, I like to conclude today's explanation on this concept and really book. Now I like to open the session for questions.
Asai Bante, we have 7 questions today. Hope you can hear me clearly.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Question number 1 of 7. This is a general question. Dear Bante, related to previous session's question on if consciousness is impermanent or the world outside is impermanent, as I gather, Bante replied that they are both subject to impermanence in their own way. If consciousness or the knowing is impermanent from one knowing to the other, it appears that impermanence is the mother of everything. Does that sound right, Bante? Thank you for your well.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. We can say so because we can't say that knowing is something permanent, that you are based on something permanent. So knowing is also maybe finished as you pass away. So that's an interesting point. I think it's in the what you call what's this Dhatu Vibhanga Sutta. There Buddha points out so how one may consciously go through some experience, and but again he know that after passing away. So this now I'll explain it here. Sukhang vedanang vedeti visangyutto tang vedeti. Now he go through some experience without being tangled in it. dukkhaṃ vedanaṃ vedeti visaṃyuktotaṃ vedeti. And go through some suffering, still not tangled in it. Adukkama sukhaṃ vedanaṃ vedeti visaṃyuktotaṃ vedeti. And even some equanimous feeling he go through, still not tangled in it. So that means he has achieved some sort of unattached way of living. And so kaya pariyantikam vedanam vediyamano kaya pariyantikam vedanam vediyamiti pajana. So if there may be some sort of a terminal kind of pain now he is going through, but he know that. Jivita pariyantikam vedanam vediyamano jivita pariyantikam vedanam vediyamiti pajana. And he might go through life ending kind of pain, suffering, but he know it is there. Kayasa beda parammarana uddhan jivita paryadana idheva sabba veditani anabhinanditani siti bhavissanti iti pajanati. So these vedana, these different feelings, not being attached, not being identified, at the death they all cease, they all calm down, they all release, and not being attached to them, so this body ultimately dies. Very much like how Buddha explains an arahant way of how he is handling his life. So he still go through certain experiences. He may be suffering because of the bodily pain, maybe, but still his mind knows what is happening. And at the death, final parinibbana, everything ceases. So sometimes it is say viññānaṃ atthaṃ agama. So that means ultimately the viññāna, the consciousness ceases. That's it. So therefore we can't say that the knowing is something permanent. So for the time being, through the senses we can see, we can hear, all that happens. That is also a kind of impermanent experience. At the death, that also stops.
Question number 2 of 7 is mindful walking. Dear Venerable Sir, during walking I focus on the sensations of the soul, and after 10 to 15 rounds I feel that the mind is not distracting much and sticking to the observations. Once this stage is reached, I start hearing high-pitched, low-volume ringing in the background. It appears like background white noise and the backdrop of hearing. I have heard this happen during sitting, but did not expect in walking. Can I use this as another sensation in the background to observe? Much merits. That's the end of the question.
Yes, definitely. Because this can happen because it's not only in the during the sitting, even now while walking, your mind is attuned to that. You can simply expect it and simply experience it, and simply let it be. Do not get disturbed by that. Simply let it be. Just enjoy it.
Question number 3 of 7. The question is written on each of the columns, like walking, sitting, general, and Dhamma sermon, but I'll read them all together. On mindful walking, I feel I'm walking. Under mindful walking, I felt I'm walking. My feet felt warm on the carpet. I continued walking. Mindful sitting, I sit in the floor and do mindful breathing first. I sense some kind of pain in my legs and backbones, but I only concentrate on breathing. How do I overcome these challenges? How do I know to concentrate on one thing?
Can you repeat the sitting part, Chamila?
Yeah. For mindful sitting, I sit on the floor and do mindful breathing first. Mm-hmm. I sense some kind of pain in my legs and backbones, but I concentrate on the breathing. How to overcome these challenges and concentrate on one thing? That's the question.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, that's the practice actually. It's mind get distracted because of various pains, and you still can't pay attention to breathing. So that's a simple question that we all have at the beginning. That is where we need to practice again and again, because still your body is not yet comfortable, and the posture is not yet comfortable, and it is producing some sort of a painful kind of experience. So one thing is you can practice more walking so that you are developing mindfulness and certain amount of concentration. And once you are sitting, try to find out a comfortable posture. So if you are trying to sit cross-legged with a painful, maintaining a painful posture, that's also not going to work. On the other hand, if you are trying to go for a very, very comfortable posture, right, like you are lying down on a, say, a bed and trying to meditate, that's also not going to work because easily you fall asleep. So try to find a comfortable posture which is convenient, but it is not too convenient where you fall asleep. And that is something that you have to experimentally find out, depending on your body situation. Suppose you are going through some bodily sickness, so then you can't go for a very strenuous kind of a posture. You have to find out a in-between comfortable posture. So therefore, you need to do a little bit of experiment. What is the type of posture that you are going to make use during the sitting? Then slowly you can expand it. Suppose you are able to continue in that particular posture continuously for 10 minutes. Maybe tomorrow you can try to make it 11 minutes. Day after tomorrow you can try to make it 12 minutes. So likewise, you can gradually extend it so that you may be able to at least sit comfortably in the same posture at least for 30 minutes. So that is how we have to continue the practice.
Thank you, Bhante. Question number 4 of 7. This is mindful sitting. Dear Bhante, during sitting I focus on the breath, and after some time the breath fades away and settles down to a silent, empty space. It is possible to keep mindfulness intact during this phase, while some sensations of the body, sound and smell can be observed. Also, time to time, various thoughts appear and disappear as well. They seem to be not related to anything of the immediate past or current experience. Can we categorize these thoughts as a form of prapancha? What are these random thoughts, Bhante? With metta, that's the end of the question.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need to say, we can't say this is the exact reason for these thoughts to come up. So there are also, that also some Buddha has explained in the suttas like Yavakalapi Sutta, how the mind is producing thinking. So one thing is some sort of an ongoing restlessness is there in the mind. So till that restlessness is there, some sort of thought formations can happen. On the other hand, there may be certain agitation in the mind. So as a result of that, again, the thinking can happen. Again, some sort of conceit is operating within the mind that also produce thinking, thoughts. And prapancha, the kind of diversifying various experiences into manifold directions, that also that tendency in the mind also produce thinking. So likewise, many reasons are there for the thinking to happen. And on the other hand, as Buddha points out, yancha cheteti, yancha pakappeti, yancha anuseti. Now these are 3 different levels that we can understand. Yancha cheteti means purposely you are thinking. Say you want to think about something, a particular subject, on a particular person, a particular event. So you are purposely thinking. So that is the yancha cheteti. Yancha pakappeti is there. You do, it is not that you are purposeful thinking. Rather, mind is engaged in thinking anyway, because of its past habit. So it's also a type of a proliferation where kind of a thinking is there, but it is not based on your own initiative. It is not that you want to think, but still mind is thinking. This where the pakalpana, the English term may be some sort of obsession, but not very strong obsession, but continuity of thinking. Some subtle background thinking is still present. So that is also there. And the point that Buddha highlights is that your consciousness can take hold of either this intentional thinking, or if it is not there, even this unintentional thinking. That is also enough for the consciousness to establish. And even that is not there, still the latent tendencies are there in the mind. Now say you are able to completely calm down inner chatter, you are able to completely stop all the intentional activities. Now there is no any thoughts at all. The mind has come to complete silence, but still the consciousness can establish based on the anusaya, the latent tendencies.
Thank you, Bhante. Question number 5 of 7 is a general question. Dear Bhante, in the Dhamma, is time a concept or does time exist as a reality? If each present moment arises and passes, then can we say time exists? Thank you. That's the end of the question.
Yeah, actually, typically it is mentioned as a concept because so when aggregates already passed away, we simply say it is the past. When the present aggregates currently going through, that we are going through certain experience, currently aggregates are arising, passing away, arising, passing away. Now we say this as the present. And there are aggregates going to arise in the future, then we, extend it to the future and say, okay, that is the future. It's a kind of a conceptually that our mind is capable of connecting these three stages, the already passed away non-existing aggregates. Now, because they already passed away, no more existing. But we conceptually say it is the past. Now, currently arising, passing away, currently. There also we introduce the present. And not yet things are arising, because that is going to happen in the future. We imagine like that, we predict like that, and we predict it and say it is the future. So all that we can say it is fairly a conceptualizing of the mind.
Question number 6 of 7. This is mindful sitting. Dear Bhante, in sitting meditation, when I am practicing open awareness, accepting whatever is presented at the sense door, doing just labeling the object, as example, just sound, and not go to the perception of identifying the sound, example, a plane. But notice the perception or identification of the object arises automatically and immediately as the sound hits the ear. How can one hear sound as sound without perception or even a feeling arising? Thank you, Bhante. That's the end of the question.
No, actually, let it happen naturally. So you are trying to forcefully do it. Say you are trying to keep your mind attention at your sense door and assume that there is a sound of an airplane happens. But now you are trying to order the mind, okay, don't pick the signs and don't say it is the airplane. Just keep it only to the sound level. This is what we are trying to do. So rather than doing so, you practice the Satipatthana, the mindfulness practice. Slowly. So you are learning kind of an art where the experience is there, but you are not tangled in it. You are not identified in it. You are able to step out of it, but still observe that experience. So you are as an outside observer, an unbiased observer, you are able to experience that what you are going through. And this experience you are doing as an investigator, it's a kind of an investigation. Now you see this is an impermanent process. This is producing some sort of a suffering and it is beyond your control, all that. So those universal characteristics, anicca, dukkha, anatta. So that understanding slowly helps you to abandon this whole thing and keep the mind unattached, non-grasping. And there, as when you are establishing on that level, that means you are now capable of maintaining a mind which is non-grasping, non-attached, not holding anything, not being tangled in anything, all that, then we can say you can hear things, but your mind is not interested of talking about it. Your mind is not interested of thinking about it. Your mind is not interested of proliferating about it. It is not that you are now trying to control the mind to stop it. Rather, mind naturally don't want to do it. So here, this is the approach that we have to take, rather than simply trying to control the mind, telling, okay, so don't take signs. So to some extent, it will work at the sense door level, where we are talking about the sense restraint. So you are trying to control your senses. You don't want to look at something harmful because you feel your mind being distracted, or you feel interfered, interrupted. So you are trying to close your eyes. So this is one way of practice, but this is not the way that Buddha introduced us. Rather, continue your practice as a result of the vipassana practice. So you get a kind of a capacity, a capability. Even though hearing is there, mind is not talking about it. Even though seeing is there, mind is not getting tangled in it. Ditte ditta mattang, sute sutta mattang, mute mutta mattang, viññāte viññāta mattang. So all that happens because there is some form of wisdom is operating within the mind now, which is preventing you from attaching to anything.
Question number 7 of 7. This is the last question, and it's on the Dhammasaman. Dear Bhante, is my understanding correct that arising and passing away and dependent arising and suffering are only applicable to non-arahant? With metta, that's the end of the question.
We can say like this. Now, even the arahant, so till their body exists, they have to experience, as we discussed, some sort of friction coming from the body. So this body is continuously arising and passing away, and these bodily experiences are continuously arising and passing away. So therefore, if he pay attention to that, he may understand, okay, they are coming and going. So that's why in the Sona Sutta, where Venerable Sona, being an arahant, explained to the Buddha, so there are various sights, there are various sounds, smells, tastes, tangibles, all are there. They are coming and impinging with those corresponding sense door. But interestingly, mind is not getting tangled in it. Rupa, saddha, rasa, gandha, passa, kevala, ittha dhamma, anittha cha nappa vedinti tadino. So his mind maintain unwavering stillness, even though these different impingements are happening at different sense doors. So he see, hear, smell, taste, touching, all that happens, but his mind is unattached. Mind is not tangled. Titan chittang vipamuttang vayanchasanupassati. And his mind maintains stillness, and he can see all these, how these conditioned phenomena come and go. So therefore, what we can see from the arahant's point of view is that if he pay attention, he can see how things are keep on arising and passing away, including maybe his body, because his body is a conditioned phenomena. And again, there may be thoughts in case arising in his mind, that also coming and going, arising and passing away. But we need to find out what would be his experience during Arhattapala Samadhi. So that is maybe a different situation, or maybe Nirodha Samapatti. So these are some extreme cases where he is completely deprived, completely free from this whole conditioned world, maybe experiencing the pristine form of Nibbana. So that may be the experience that he may be experiencing a completely unconditioned state.
Thank you, Bhante. So that's the end of the questions today, and we have just come up on time. So we will end the program now. Before we end the program today, I would like to take this time to remember and pass our merits to Namantha Tantrige, who passed away in Sydney last week. He was a devoted supporter of Nissarana Vanaya and helped to conduct programs similar to this one online here in Sydney. May he attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu. Actually, I also can remember that he contributed during the video preparations and several other Satipasala activities. So we got the message from Nadeep a few days ago, and he passed that information to us. So I too like to second what Chamila has mentioned. So we'll share all the merits, and let's do a kind of a formal sharing of merits because we have discussed the Dhamma and we all have practiced the Dhamma. So all the merits that we have accumulated, we pass to Namanta as well as various other beings who are in need of merits, and to our all past relatives and whoever in need of merits. We'll recite the traditional verses. Ettavata cha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavata cha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavata cha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Akasattha ca bummatti deva naga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkantu sasanang. Akasattha ca bummatti deva naga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkantu desanang. Akasattha ca bummatti deva naga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkantu mamparang. Idang vo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukitā huntu ñātayo. Idang vo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukitā huntu ñātayo. Idang vo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukitā huntu ñātayo. Imina punya kammena māmi bāla samāgamo sataṃ samāgamo hotu yāva nibbāna pattiya. Imina punya kammena māmi bāla samāgamo sataṃ samāgamo hotu yāva nibbāna pattiya. Imina punya kammena māmi bāla samāgamo sataṃ samāgamo hotu yāva nibbāna pattiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.